Hi, welcome back to my quilt studio. Today we're going to be talking about value and dominance and how we can use that in our quilts to help people see what we really want them to see in our particular quilt. If you remember from the last lesson, I talked about value and what is value. Value basically is the light and dark as if color isn't present, okay? So let's take a look at some different values. Here we have green, and here we have some different values in green from light to dark, all right? And here we have a pink, and here we have different values. Here's the light to a darker pink. Okay, we could have many values. And here I have peach or pink, or sorry, excuse me, orange, and I have different values from light to dark, and here I have many more values than you saw before. Okay, now value becomes a useful tool for the quilt artist when we start to use values in different proportions, all right, and in different contrasts, okay, and I'll explain that. So here we have, again, we've got very light to very dark, all right. Now I can choose to do a quilt in all of those, or I can choose to do a quilt that still has dark and light, but all of a sudden I've tightened up the contrast between the very light and the dark here. Okay, so this would be a low value contrast because basically they're close together in value. All right, I can make some choices here, and I could do something like this, and suddenly I still have a quilt that has a light, medium, and dark, but they are in higher contrast to each other. It's as if there are things missing in between. Okay, and each one is in high contrast to the other. So let's see what happens when we use that in a particular quilt. So here's and this is sort of our lesson for today, although yours is a different drawing. But this is a contemporary piece, and in each piece we have three values: a light, a medium, and a dark. And if you notice, this one is a low value contrast. We still have a light and a medium and a dark, but the contrast between the values is much less than this one. This one we have a high value contrast. We have a light and a medium and a dark, but the contrast between the values is much more drastic. And can you see the difference? Can you see what happens in the particular pieces? In this one with the high value contrast, we have the pieces seem to pop out. We see a difference between the pieces, and you can actually see the shapes much more than you can in this one. This one, it's much more subtle. Now, it's never that one is right and one is wrong. It's that we need to learn how to use these things and use them in the parts of our quilt that we need to. For instance, obviously, if we can see this one, this would be where our eye would go in our particular quilt, and it would be important to want to have some high value contrast so that people will look right there. That's the first thing they'll see. But there will be other parts of our quilt that are not as important and where we don't want people to just rush to, and that would be some place that we could use this low value contrast. Now, a place that is in our traditional quilts, we use more of a high value contrast, and it's obviously very effective because usually we want to see whatever pattern that we're trying to create in a traditional quilt. And the way to do that, we want the pattern to be seen. So the way to do that is to have three values that are pretty drastic or high in contrast, and then all of a sudden our pattern pops. All right, so this is our lesson for today. Basically what you're going to do is you'll have a PDF that you download, and it's got a little drawing here. It's a little different than the one that we saw here. Now there is no photograph with it that tells us which pieces need to be light, medium, and dark. You get to decide that. So make a few photocopies, and the first thing you're going to do is a value study. So you're going to decide which pieces you want to be light, medium, and dark. The light ones you're going to leave white. The darker ones, the very dark ones, you're going to use a colored pencil, and I'll just color a piece in very dark or very heavily with my colored pencil. All right, and those you'll color in very dark. And then the medium pieces you'll color in with a medium intensity or heaviness with your colored pencil. Okay, and that will be your medium piece. Okay, something like that. All right, and you get to decide whatever pieces are light, medium, and dark. Then you're going to choose, you're going to take one of these line drawings and have it blown up to 12 by 12 at your local copy shop. And then with that, you're going to choose your values and decide. In one, you're going to do two pieces. In one, you're going to do a high value contrast. So let's just do something like this. Let's pick, we have a light, a medium, and a dark. But in this case, we've got a high value contrast right here. So what do you think is going to happen with these pieces that are very light? I think because there's such a contrast between these, they are really going to stand out, and we're going to see the shapes in that. All right, and then in another one, you're going to do the same monochromatic color scheme, but you're going to have the values closer together. All right, and here we have a light, medium, and dark, but they're much closer together. And do that, and let's see what happens to those pieces. Do you have pieces that seem to pop out, that stand out from others, that where you can see the shapes, and others that you can't? And what you start to understand is you can start forcing these things to happen so that you can have certain things that you want to be seen, be seen. All right, so that's your lesson, and don't forget that you can post these things on the Quilt Show, and I look forward to seeing you for lesson 3 when we're going to talk about the temperature of color and how we can, whether things recede or are aggressive. And so I'll see you next time.